Hello and welcome to a new episode of Immigration and its Effect on People. Dina Al Ziab answered a very sensitive question about belonging. Who do we belong to and how do we belong? Kind spirit, bright mind, and a revolutionary in her own way. Inspiring to her community and to her peers, especially her family, very insightful, and her only goal and challenge and maybe adventure is to be a better person than she was yesterday. Please help me welcome Dina Ziab. Hi, Dina, and welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm
Of
very
course.
excited.
No, thank you for accepting my invitation. My thank you actually today is not only for accepting my invitation as a special guest, but thank you for teaching me how to do spanakopira because yesterday I made it the way you taught me, and
Oh,
honestly, it came out so good. So I owe you this, and thank you.
that makes me so happy so many years later. I'm so glad.
Dina, you know that our show is about immigration and its effect on people. And I know for a fact that you migrated from Massachusetts to California to pursue another life for yourself
Mhm.
because you're so ambitious. It's a subject that's worth the elaboration. We're gonna get to that later on in the interview. But for now, I'm interested in your upbringing. You were born in a very loving family, a very loving home between two parents from different backgrounds.
Mhm.
So, how did it look like growing up, and how does it look like now?
Oh, those are two very different perspectives. I know growing up, it was we were very immersed in their culture. So my father's Palestinian and my mother's Greek. They both emigrated from their respective countries and met in Boston. I have three other brothers, so we were very much thrown into that culture. We lived next door to my and Papu. So we grew up mostly with the Greek culture because my father's family was mostly in like Canada and the Middle East. But when you're younger, you don't realize how much your culture is like different from other people till you get older. You think everything's normal in your culture, like eating also like bring for lunch, you bring spanakopita or moussaka or some sort of za'atar chicken. And then people would look at you like, but I didn't think it was weird. It's like this is the culture I grew up in. I like we had lamb on Easter and it was honestly such a I at the time because I was so young, I didn't realize how enriched I was. The older I got, the more I was like, wow, I'm so different. I have so much more to tell people. I've got like this rich history in my family, and the fact that they came here to pursue a better life, to have children and have a better life, because it wasn't, I mean, they were avoiding persecution, you know what I mean? So
Mhm.
it
In
was
both
a,
in both sides, in Greece
yeah.
and in the Middle East.
Yeah, my mom came here when she was 14. Um, you know, because my grandfather had been fighting and he fought in the war and the whole Turkish occupation kind of deal. So they came here with no one except my grandfather's sister in Haverhill, Massachusetts. So that's where they ended up. And my dad was a different story where his father was just like, if you stay here, your life's in danger. You need to go. I want better for you. So my dad was 21 when he came here. So it was literally the love of their parents that brought them here. And then as far as us, like the cool thing about my parents is they had a lot of respect for each other. They didn't always see eye to eye because Palestinian culture and Greek culture, they are different. They have a lot of similarities for sure. But the one thing they always taught us was this respect of culture. Like they never imposed too much. If you wanted to learn, they were willing to like teach you about their holidays or their family or all these sort of things, but they never imposed so much. They just wanted you to be excited about it and to learn about who they were. And we were. Maybe not so much when we were kids, but the older we got, the more we just wanted to dive into like what made them them. And they're beautiful cultures. And from there, coming to California felt like small potatoes after that. You know, um, it was hard because I was 25 when I moved, and my grandmother, my yaya, I remember like having a moment with her where she looked at me and she was like, you have to go. This is what you want to do. She was a woman who never wore a pair of pants. She never drove a car. she didn't do all these sort of things. And she's looking at me like, why do you think we came here? Like, yes, this is for you. Go have this moment, figure yourself out. And that was honestly, as sad as it is, the last time I saw her was when I moved to California. But I think about that all the time. Like, this was because of her. My mom was just as strong as her. And she's like, go do it, And I had an easy time with Theo, your son, because he comes from a he comes from a very similar uh background of parents who just wanted you to do more. Like, you were such a supportive person in the first year that we moved to California. But it always became about becoming a better generation than what came before us. And that goes all the way from, you know, Palestine and Greece to Boston to California. It's just this beautiful lineage of just people wanting to do something better than before.
That's a nice way to say it and to put it. So you were mentioning some differences and some similarity in both cultures, Greek and Middle Eastern. Can you tell us more about that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously the biggest bearing difference is the religion, Muslim, Christian, and your beliefs in your gods and your traditions, and the way we deal with women, or the way we deal with just God in general. But the thing that my parents mostly, they were just smart people. They understood respect, and they understood just because you were raised in something doesn't mean you have to agree with all of it. But they did hold it very true to their heart, their religion. Like, my mom was a biology major, and my mom says she goes into school and the teacher tells her, whatever you know about religion, you leave it at the door. You're here for science. And my mom's like, yeah, I learned so much, but I could not leave my Christianity to save my life. But she found a way to integrate them. I think that's what knowledge does. Um, but those differences, they're hard when you're raising children, because I think people want to they want to bring their children into what they know and what they love. And our parents tried to delicately walk that line as best they could, although it didn't always work out. And I think at some point, after your kids grow up and start kind of having a mind of their own, you have to let them make that decision on their own. And that was hard, because it's hard to give up your culture, but when you love somebody, you find a way to make it work. So I think in a lot of ways they did make it work, but those differences were very glaring in our younger age, just because you're kind of holding on to your past, but also knowing you're building this future with your kids. Who are they going to become based off what you've been teaching them? So I mean, those are just the big differences. Most of the similarities are your love of family, your amazing food. Amazing food. uh let's see what else. It's just respect and this love of history and tradition. When you think about how old our cultures are compared to America, it's bar none. So it's pretty cool, especially the Greeks and the Arabs were responsible for so much that happens here. Democracy, math, science, medicine, all sorts of things, philosophy.
Alphabet,
So
everything.
yeah,
And
everything.
pizza and baklava.
Exactly, all the good
And
stuff
grape
from
leaves.
yeah, all the good stuff. I'm so grateful too. I got to learn how to do all those things. My yaya sat me down and she taught me how to cook, and I'm so glad I get to pass that on too. Because I know people who can't boil water. So
I know,
yeah,
and I know that you're a good cook.
yeah.
Dina, I hear you saying that both your parents were so open-minded, so loving, so responsible. They were giving you the best of their culture without imposing their tradition or their religions or anything else. How did
Mhm.
that affect you? Did you feel like you belong to either or you're this mixture of those two beautiful human beings and you're different than American people, and in what sense?
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways I'm better for it. They taught me really a sort of unconditional kind of love. So my mom and my dad are the only two in their families who married outside their culture. My dad has a huge family, nine, I think nine brothers, five sisters. They all married within their culture. We're the only ones who can't speak Arabic. So we're kind of
Revolutionary, a family
yeah, yeah,
revolutionary, yeah.
yeah. So when we were younger, I felt a little bit like we were black sheep, but I also learned to embrace the things that made us different. Like they weren't half Greek. They didn't get that whole side of the thing. Yeah, I can't speak Arabic, but I can do so many other Arabic things. I can I can dance, I can cook, I can do all like a bunch of things, and I speak Greek, and I do all these things. Um, but the things that I thought made me different, I didn't love when I was younger, but now I absolutely adore having these two cultures. Like I love identifying with Greeks and Palestinians and like educating people on like those different countries. Like so many people don't even understand the history of what's happening, and I'm happy to be that kind of person for my parents.
Great. Have you been there?
Yeah, well,
Either.
I've been to Lebanon and Jordan, and I've been to Greece twice. And it is, when it's like in you, when you feel like you belong somewhere, like there's something calling to you. Like I go there and I'm like, I could, I could have grown up here. I could have lived here.
You
And I
felt
see,
home?
I did. And the thing is seeing my mom and my dad in those elements too, like seeing a version of them as their child that you realize your parents are people before they become parents, and the lives that they led before you were even a thought is like this my like eye-opening
Mind
scenario.
blowing, yeah.
Yeah. So I saw my father with his mother for the first time, and I was just like, he's just a kid who left home and misses his mom. And it was just like this wholesome, like beautiful
Endearing.
thing. Yeah. Because not a lot of people know what it's like to have to give up your family, the people that you love, to
Right.
find a safer life for yourself, and the
Hmm.
sacrifice that they go through for that to happen. It
Nice.
gives, yeah,
You mentioned that you felt like you belong to the
yeah.
Palestinian culture and to the Greek culture.
Hmm.
And you felt sometimes like you're the black sheep because you don't speak Arabic or Greek, but you can do what they do in
Hmm.
their traditions, in their food, in their customs, which is great. Let's talk a little bit about a girl who has two different parents from two different backgrounds, born in the United States. How does it feel?
Uh, how does it feel? I mean, now that I'm 34 and I've reflected so much on it, it's amazing, I never took advantage of, when you'd have those in school when you talk about like your parents' heritage or stuff like that. I never took advantage of it because I just wanted to be like everybody else, you know what I mean? But now I'm looking back on it and I'm like it's such a point of pride now to know like what my parents endured, how different they were, how they found each other, and that their love overcame everything else. Even like, their family wasn't excited for them to be marrying outside of the culture, but they did it anyway. And they've become such a wonderful example of this love that can withstand all. Like even now, they're best friends. Like they will take care of each other, they will choose each other. It's really been a shining example of what like love is. And I know it doesn't come easy for a lot of other. I might even be an exception to the rule, but for me, it was kind of watching them endure what they endured and finding the priorities, knowing like we've been through it, but we're gonna build something good, better together and for our kids.
So basically, you belong to a love story and to a loving life and to love in general because you choose the best of this amalgam, if we can say.
Mm.
Let me talk a little bit about something that I hear always in schools. I work in the school system, and they always look at me and they say, "Oh, what are you? Where are you from? Are you white?" And I look at myself and I say, "Excuse me, do I look like not white?" They said, "Yeah, miss, white means like blonde and blue eyes. Where are you from?" So, did that happen with you or with any members of your family growing up? Did you face this a questioning around you, or it was a smooth passage?
For the most part, we nobody really like brought it up. I think when you're younger, nobody like really like talks about it. We were all just kids going to school. I think as we grew older and our features grew more prominent, like my brothers look very Middle Eastern, and then me and my baby brother look very Greek. I know after September 11th, it became a really big thing. That's when we started to realize we looked a little different, because people were more like, oh, dark eyebrows, big beard. That's when features became more prominent, and everybody was like, oh, Middle Eastern, Middle Eastern. But before that, it wasn't something that we really thought about. But now I take so much pride in knowing like I've got curly hair, I've got brown eyes, I've got olive skin and this Greek nose. Like
Yeah, all
yeah.
the charming beauty. Yeah, all the exotic look.
I love you, Amal.
I love you so.
So sweet. But I look at you and I think you look like a Middle Eastern beauty. You know what I mean? You've got this rich dark hair and like, the features that I would coincide with Middle Eastern.
Oh,
No, for
thank you.
sure.
That made my day. But
Yeah.
I don't have the big eyes that you all do. Like my kids, they have those big eyes and the thick eyebrow. I'm sometimes jealous. I say, what do I look like? But now you confirm that.
Yeah.
So
I mean, you produce some beautiful children, though.
oh,
They're beautiful. Yeah.
thank you. That's so sweet of you. Let's talk about something else. As a girl who grew up in Massachusetts and went to California, it was a smooth transition, as I hear you saying, because you grew up with two different culture and you had to deal with two different perspective of life. So when you went to California, what was your feeling? How did you face this transition? Did you see like people are different from California to Massachusetts, or was it easy for you to blend?
People were very different from Massachusetts to California, but what I found most about Californians was they were a melting pot of people from all over the US and even the world trying to do something different. So LA is just filled with a bunch of dreamers. They all just left their hometowns trying to do something bigger and grander, whether it's pursuing writing or acting or anything really. There's so much opportunity here. But I was surprised just to find a bunch of people like me just wanting to do more. It was very exciting. And I got really lucky because I got to move with somebody, Theo, who was also in the pursuit of something grander that we couldn't have succeeded with in Massachusetts. We just needed bigger perspective. Like we just weren't going to be happy not trying. And when we set our mind to it, it was like 5 months later, we were in California. We just made the decision and it became like no turning back after that. So coming here was the first month or so, I was terrified. I was like, I'm going to move back home. I don't want to be here anymore. But I have my parents to thank for this too, and my brothers, in thinking that I always have a home to go back to. So why not just keep trying? And I've been here almost 9 years now.
Wow.
So it's pretty crazy. But also like just to tie it back into like our cultures, like a few years earlier, like me and my brothers had gone to visit the Middle East. And that was during like the Lebanon bombing. So we were there when that happened. And kind of going through like what my father like walked us through, like what to do when everything was happening, how to get out of the country. And it gave me a whole new perspective of like, you have to seize the day now. Like your parents have gone through so much worse than you have. Your grandmother's literally telling you, I came here for this reason. Like you owe it to yourself and you owe it to them to try.
Yeah,
So
you cannot give up.
Yeah, exactly.
As long as you're trying every single day, you're a successful person. Once you give up,
yeah, definitely.
You're not successful. Yeah. So I'm really proud of your trajectory, and I feel how you progress day after day and year after year. I've been watching you, and I've been amazed by the amount of faith you have in yourself and in the day, when you seize the day, and in the future, because you have a seed in you, not the seed of success that you nurture, but the seed of becoming a better person every day. That's what I said in my introduction. I said, this is about a revolutionary girl. Well, see, I'm mixing my pronunciation on that. Excuse me. I've been talking all day long. So it's about someone who's trying to be a better person than themselves. which is a bigger challenge, and I salute you for that. So let me ask you another question. So what's the difference between Dina now and the former Dina, the little Dina who grew up in Massachusetts and the Dina who settled in California and find a new life for her?
I say the biggest difference is her confidence. If I could look back at younger Dina and be like, look at all you've done and how scared you were and how you held yourself back through a certain thing. Like if you had just gone in it with the confidence that I have now, I could just imagine where I'd be, but I know everything's a progression and I'm excited to see where the next 5 years take me. You know, by the time I'm 40, I'm pumped to see who
I'm
I am
sure.
then. But it's like incredible to think I was 25 when I moved and I'm 34 now. And in just almost 10 years, like I look back at that person and I see so much of myself in her, but I don't recognize her anymore. Was a stepping stone in who I am now. And I thank her for being brave enough at the time to make that move and do what she had to do because I'm so happy. Like I'm genuinely happy with where I am now. And I came out here to write and I do get to write, but I got a really good job. I got really great friends. My family just visited me last weekend. Like I'm in a good place and I did not envision this, but I'm glad I took the steps in order to make this a reality because I'm happier than with my original vision.
So, if you have to give an advice for anyone who has a dream or who's attached to his parents or to his country or to his situation, it's hard to defy the familiar. It's
Of
not
course.
easy. Yeah, the familiar is comfort. So, to change our life, what would you say, since you are an adventurous girl, and I gather that if I ask you what would be your best adventure, you would say tomorrow or the next one, because you're always looking forward, which is great. So what would be your advice for people who would like to immigrate or to migrate, or who grew up between two parents from different culture? What would
Mhm.
be your advice for them? What would you say to them?
Oh, my advice for sure would be just to try. Your growth starts outside of your comfort zone. The comfort that I really had was knowing I had a backup. Like leaving home, I always knew I could come back home. And the love that I had for my family was always going to be there and they'd always take me in. And that helped me in being able to make really big steps like moving to California. But I would tell anybody, just try. You never know your capabilities. You never know what perspective you're going to gain unless you see something different, unless you do something different, and unless you literally make yourself uncomfortable. That is where you start to be like know who you are and what you're capable of. So don't let fear dictate you is the biggest thing. Like because there are so many people who will just have these tiny little stories that could have been fleshed out so grandly if they had only taken that first step. So like trust in yourself, trust in the support around you, and just go for it.
That's a beautiful insight and a beautiful advice. How about when you hit rock bottom and in the other place?
Gosh, when you I've definitely hit rock bottom in the last 10 years. And I thought like, I think it's a rite of passage in your life. It's never always going to be easy. You have to think about it now, knowing that eventually something is not going to work out and it's going to pile on because when it rains, it pours. You have to trust in yourself and know that you have people around you and you have the means within yourself to pull yourself out of it. But you can't let that fear of rock bottom or failure, which is your greatest teacher, keep you from doing these things because you're going to hit it and it's not a pretty place to be and it's not fun. But once you get out of it, if you fight out of it, it's worth it because you've gained so much from it and you're better for it.
I like what you're saying. They say in psychology that about 90% of our decisions in life are based on fear. Oh,
Mm,
I got married because I'm afraid to stay alone. Oh, I want to have kids because I want to have a legacy. Oh, I
mm,
want to have a good job because I don't want to be poor. Oh, this or that. Do you
mm.
think this fear, it's a healthy fear, or what's the sand line between the fear that you're talking about and the healthy fear to do better in life?
Yes. Okay, that's great. When I think about that kind of fear, like this fear that we're not in the right place at the right time, like you said, wanting to have kids, not wanting to be alone, I think you have to let go of the timeline that people in society have created for you. You have to be on your own timeline. So, like if you're 34 and you're unmarried, you don't have kids, that's fine, Like that's okay because this is your life and you don't owe
That's
it to
great
anybody
coming from
else.
a girl, because girl, they said, "Oh, I
Yeah,
have a life shelf. I have a ticking clock." So this is nice to
exactly.
hear it from you. Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I want those things too, 100%, but I want them when they're right and I want them with the right person. If I'm going to build something, I'm going to build it with somebody like I want to do those things with, but I'm not in a hurry to just throw myself into it. I think we got allotted, like my generation, first generation American had the privilege of knowing we don't have to get married to survive. We don't have to, you know, go to or yeah, we don't have to rely on somebody else to make a life for ourselves. Like that's what my mom was taught, and that's why she got married very young. Although she found a great love, and she had these beautiful children. Like she had to drop out of school and do all those kind of things. You know what I mean?
She
Um,
could manage to do them all at the same
yeah,
time.
yeah,
But
yeah,
do you
because we
think
had
we're
that.
all as strong as your mom, as you?
I'd like to think everybody, I got lucky that I grew up with strong women who made me strong, but I don't know. Maybe there are people who don't have that benefit, maybe, but I'd like to think that the human spirit is very strong and that even if you don't have the support or somebody to show you those things, you can find it. Like people are strong. If they look within themselves. And I'm always surprised by people who don't have the same support that I have coming out here and making it happen anyway. So I
Wow.
think yeah, it's been an adventure for sure, seeing other people as well as sharing my adventure with them. Like I've learned so much and I am all the better for it.
I hear you. Dina, hearing you saying all of this actually is moving, because many girls now are listening to you. The last thing you want to say, or maybe a question that you wanted to answer and I didn't ask you, what would you like to say before we wrap up our interview?
Well, what I'd really like to say is thank you so much for reaching out. I think what you're doing here is super important. I think especially for women or people of different cultures or people who feel they're different, it's important to have these conversations to seek another perspective, to understand people's paths, and that maybe we'll all join together and walk forward building something better. Like what you're doing, having an open dialogue is the best thing that you can do. Communicating is the best thing that you can do. And as a person who values writing and stories, this has been an absolute treat. I love learning about
Oh,
people and what makes them what they are. So thank you for allowing me a platform to share that with you.
oh no, thank you. It's been a pleasure and an honor. Dina, last thing I want to say, or maybe I'm wondering, all this strength, resilience, and how can I say, give me another synonym for resilience. What would you say?
Uh, gosh, perseverance, strength, all that.
Yeah, your resilience is coming from a place of faith or confidence, self confidence, or the love of your parents. Where does this resilience come from?
I would say it's the love of my family. I got really lucky having three brothers who are my best friends, and my mom who literally would take the shirt off her back if it meant like taking care of anybody. She's incredible. And my father who was not as emotionally available as my mother, but still a pillar of strength in so many ways. So although I wasn't enriched like religiously, spiritually for sure, but their support and their love and their just constant encouragement was I owe everything to, pretty much. Like there was
So,
nothing I felt like I couldn't do without them in my
right,
corner.
right. So you had this faith in their love, and their love was the source of all your strengths. This is amazing, Dina. Thank you so much for this beautiful story about your life and your upbringing and the differences between those two beautiful cultures. It's been a pleasure and a treat, as you said. Thank you so much, and I wish you a great day.
Thank you. The pleasure's all mine. Appreciate you, Amal. Thanks.
No, thank you.
Mhm.